Hello and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah, and in today's video I'll be sharing 5 easy lesson plan and teaching ideas for remote teaching or e-learning, specifically for social studies. Before we get into the video content, I just wanted to say that I hope you're doing okay. This e-learning remote teaching time is pretty strange and definitely not something that we were necessarily trained on or prepared for when we first signed up to be a teacher. And obviously, while every state and district has a different situation, I just hope that you're not being too tough on yourself during this time just because it's not something that you expected, and we're doing the best we can. As long as you're showing up and doing your best work, that's really what's important. That being said, today's video is sharing specific ideas of how we have prepared lessons for e-learning or remote teaching that maybe you would benefit from as well. Of course, none of these are, the golden ticket, do this every single day, but I think a mixture of activities is really helpful. Although we want to provide consistency to our students, it's also important to still challenge them in new ways and still incorporate new skills that they can grow and benefit from, just like if you were actually teaching in school. There'd be a variety of activities too. To get started first, I think e-learning is a great opportunity to incorporate DBQs with your students. And how we have chose to create DBQ lessons is to actually break down the number of documents over the course of several days. So Jake, my husband, Mr. Social Studies, was recently doing a DBQ about ancient Greece, and he divided up the documents over the course of 3 days, and each day students were analyzing 2 documents. So it broke it up in a more moderate way, and then as part of the teaching, Jake recorded a voiceover of him actually reading through and talking through the documents with the students. So if they chose to watch that video, that screen recording of the actual document and him going through it, it was a way that they were able to follow along, just like if he was there in person in the classroom, sharing things you might be thinking about when analyzing a historical document, really modeling that process. And then the 4th day is a Google form assessment. Students will not actually be writing a response just because, at the 6th grade level, that's a little bit more challenging. But he can assess their overall understanding of the documents with some multiple choice questions in a Google form as an alternative option to see if they did understand those documents. Idea number 2 is to do a virtual museum exhibit. And with this, I'm very excited to report that this is a free resource for you. It is included as part of our free guide that we just released, and this epic freebie is called 5 Creative Projects to Ignite Student Engagement in Your Social Studies Class. And in this resource, we put together 5 of our favorite projects that we've done in any of our teaching, any subject, and actually have templates for you so you can literally print and go, both printable and Google Drive versions. So the link is below for you to check it out. And the first one is the virtual museum exhibit, so let's take a look at that. So each activity has a very detailed teacher guide to help you be successful, and then the handouts you need. Now with distance learning, the Google slideshow version is what you're going to want to use rather than the printable version. But in this situation, no matter what your topic is, students are actually coming up with a collection of artifacts that highlight key aspects of that topic and then explaining what those artifacts are and what the significance of them is. So once again, link is in the description field of the video so you can get this free 17-page guide of these 5 resources for yourself and your classroom. One of the best parts about doing a museum exhibit is that museums organize information in a really helpful way, especially if it's a good museum. You see, they don't give you all of the facts because that would be overwhelming. They have a way of pairing artifacts, images, pictures, physical objects, of course, texts or quotes, with key pieces of information that are important to know for context. And so in this activity, students are doing the same thing. What is the historical topic you're teaching right now? Maybe as an alternative assessment, students have to create a museum exhibit about it, in which case on each slide, they would find some sort of image or their artifact, whatever that object, image, text is, that's important that they want to draw attention to, and explain the significance about it. There's multiple layers of decision making that has to happen. Not only do you have to have a good understanding of the time period to sort of understand what types of objects to include, then you also have to analyze those specific objects. Now, another very common example, which you might already be doing, that translates very well to e-learning, has to do with traditional lecture. Now, I know on the channel before I've talked about how lecture hasn't been my favorite thing, and I do try to keep lecture to a minimum. I still think it does have a time and a place, and when you are doing remote learning, it's easier to still convey that message similar to how you would have in class. I think the easiest thing to do would be to do a screencast where you are talking through the slides, assuming you're using a slideshow, and explaining those situations and telling those stories that you normally would when you were teaching it to your students, but you have it in video form, and then students can watch it whenever they need to. You can also have them follow along on a note sheet if you'd like. That could be a simple Google Doc that you're putting together that accompanies the slides. You could even pair it with a Google form or something simple, sort of like an exit slip. Make sure they got the main ideas out of that lesson as they watched or listened to you talking through it. And I should say as well that we are using unlisted YouTube videos as the way that we are able to share these videos. Obviously, it's a comfort level we already have since there are YouTube videos on this channel. It's just very easy to upload the file, share the link, and YouTube is a platform that our students are already on and already watching, so it's a great way to lessen the learning curve if you want to have recorded videos. Speaking of videos, a fourth option is EDPUZZLE. If you haven't used EDPUZZLE before, the concept is you take a video, you break it up into smaller pieces, and you add questions in those pieces based upon what was talked about in the video. It's simple to assess, simple to grade, and it's a great way to make sure students are getting what you want them to get out of the video, especially since, while we can make videos of us teaching, there's a lot of really good stuff out there, and I think these videos can only enrich your teaching of a particular subject. Finally, a creative and meaningful activity to do with your students is to have them create something digitally, such as an infographic. A lot of our students are visual learners, and realistically, a lot of jobs and careers that students might have in the future may require them to use different digital tools to create something, whether they become a graphic designer or have to put together a presentation for whatever their company is. Even in school settings, if someone is to become a teacher, they're likely going to be creating different resources as well. And giving them the opportunity to practice creating these kind of visuals is really positive. You've probably seen infographics many times before. It's a way of incorporating text and visuals, statistics, to share information in a new and engaging way. And having students create an infographic about one of the topics you've been studying is a great way to do an alternative assessment. It gives students the chance to showcase information in a new way that also is perhaps more engaging to them and gives them a bit of a creative challenge. 2 platform ideas of how you can use this. I do personally love using Canva, and I've talked about Canva with my students. There are so many great options there in terms of templates, and they do have infographic templates already built into the program. Of course, if you use that option, students would need to create a free account. So that could be something that maybe is an extra step to getting started. But a very simple thing to do would be on either a Google slideshow or Google Drawing, changing the dimensions of the page to be a traditional infographic, which tends to be a longer, skinnier shape. So you could easily do that by going to the page setup of those files and changing the dimensions, or you could just keep it really simple and have it be the traditional size. Students would then drag in images or insert images, as well as adding in text boxes and formatting them in a way that has visual appeal while also highlighting the most important information. That being said, I hope today's video was helpful in sharing some social studies teaching ideas for you during this time of distance learning. And then don't forget to get your free download in the description field of this video. You can click the link to get your free guide with those resources. I've got the Google Drive files all ready for you. I want to make this as easy as possible, so I hope you enjoy it. If you're a social studies teacher and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do right up here, and you can check out some of our past videos over here. We'll see you next time. Bye.